Yell at us.
You are now tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome one, welcome all to another episode of Flipping the Birds.
He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome on, welcome all to an alternate reality of Flipping the Birds, where the backgrounds do not exist.
I already found it, man. It's in the chat.
I'm
You can't
Brian
get past
Cameron.
me, not even at 9 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh, you know what it is? Okay, so we redid our living room. So that painting is over here on my left side.
Oh, Jesus
And where's the
Christ.
fucking staircase?
There we go.
Right here in front of me.
Where's the staircase? Yeah, you moved it.
You got to get up pretty early in the morning to get past me, Brian.
You did.
Bro, it's been like this for like 2 weeks, though.
Listen, I'm slow, but I'll figure it out eventually.
I'm
Yeah,
Brian Cameron.
how did he move? How did he move the stairs?
Alongside Zach Chavalella and Eric Reese. We're Flipping the Birds. Good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great morning like we are right now. Hope you also have your coffee out there because Eric and I are lacking in that right now. But we are here to preview Eagles, Panthers, and why the Eagles need to make sure that they keep their head down, continue to truck forward, as opposed to letting up and letting the Panthers sneak in with a win in what could be a trap game. But yes, how are you gentlemen feeling besides Zach?
I know where your stairs are, so as normal. I don't.
They're
have to
off
call
camera.
you.
We don't really know that.
I've seen them.
I'm
I've seen them
just
on
saying.
camera. I can just assume that they're probably behind him. So
Look,
There
right
it
there. There it is. Look at that.
Okay.
Right
there's a tour. This is MTV
right.
Cribs Flipping the Birds edition. Just with. Just, no, I'm doing. This is great. This is a great way to kick off Saturday. So,
How you feeling, Zach?
I'm you know what? Honestly, I'm fine. Sixers are 3-1. The Eagles are 1,000,000-0. This is a pretty good time. Flyers fucked up. Eric, what's going on with that? But
Damn.
I'm
Yeah,
still a
I
little
mean-
mad about that Panthers game, honestly. But I'm doing pretty good otherwise.
I'm doing fine. As far as coach not really showing up after the game to take on the questions, I don't necessarily.
Is that
Like
allowed?
I understand that you probably wouldn't get many answers out of that anyway, but the point is maybe showing up and just saying that, hey, we're gonna leave that internal, because that's what he would have said probably anyhow. But you got to show up with the transparency there, and I'm getting raked through the coals a little bit by just, dare I say that, even out loud. But he did answer a lot of those questions at practice the next day, so. Yeah, I don't know, man. That was a rough one. That was one where the team came back and he never needed to pull that goaltender, but we'll probably save that for next week's shoot another Flyers show, instead of me going on for the next half hour about the lack of transparency and how apparently that's media entitlement.
That's true. This is actually my time to talk about the Sixers' lack of transparency with Joel Embiid. So I'm going to take a half hour now to focus on.
So, it sounds like we need a morning show calling flipping Philly or something like that.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
I can get behind that for sure.
Just on a show with AB, because I know that AB is usually the daily morning guy. So sure.
Yeah, we need an AB plug. But other than that, Eagles, Panthers, Sunday, 1:00 p.m. Bryce Young has been, I feel like on a tear would be too much of a compliment, but he's kind of found his footing within the Panthers offense. They are still a pretty bad team, which makes this game intriguing because Philadelphia has a knack of playing down to their opponents, and they have a knack of not showing up in the first quarter as of late. But all in all, defensively, how are you guys feeling about this game against Bryce Young? It looks like under pressure, he's actually not bad, but when the pocket is pretty clean, which Eagles could take advantage of, he has about 5 interceptions.
Yeah, I look at what Philadelphia was able to do against, and quite frankly, I know this is going to play into the trap game, kind of logic that we're talking about here. But I look at what Philadelphia was able to do at Baltimore, and I don't know that there's Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard is striking fear into our hearts. As far as what they're able to do, I know they can do some things off play action, some things off the boot. So obviously, they're going to really drive in that run game. They're not going to do it in the way that Philadelphia can. See, this is me being confident in Philadelphia, and I know that, it plays right to the trap cards, right? But I don't think that this is like I'm confident enough to sit here and say that could the Panthers make this a close game? Maybe for a while, like in the first half, but I think that Philadelphia starts to pull away as we normally have seen. Defensively,
Yeah,
on that hand, I do think that it's going to be a tough day for for Bryce Young versus instead of what we've seen for the past 3 or 4 weeks. I think that the Philadelphia Eagles pass defense has actually turned into one of the premier ones throughout the league, and that's a little bit different from even Kansas City was that in the beginning of the season, not so much recently. Tampa Bay is not necessarily that right now. And New York wasn't that, either, and that's kind of their last 3 weeks, at least there. Yeah, I think they're stepping up and playing a defense that's, quite frankly, out of the leagues of the last 2 or 3 defenses they played.
you look over the last 4 weeks for Carolina, and they've been pretty competitive to their credit. I mean, that being said, you gotta have to look at who it was against. The Saints, not overly impressive. Obviously earlier in the season it looked like the Eagles had an impressive win against them. And I would argue the way they won was impressive, but they turned out not to be a legitimate contender. The Bucks is, I would say, interesting. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries as the year have gone on, so that obviously plays a factor into it. The Chiefs, their MVP doesn't even wear red. I mean, so you have to kind of take these factors into consideration. I think the Eagles are going to run away with this game. I have full confidence. I'm not really worried about it, and a big reason is I think this pass rush is going to get to Bryce Young in a way that
Yes.
these past pass rushes have not been able to. So once you get them in there a bit and kind of get him on the ground a little bit, just get a couple hits in there, rush him a little bit, get him to anticipate your arrival. I think that Philadelphia is going to be able to sail pretty clearly from there.
This is a game, I think, where Bryce Young, if he's going to kind of have a welcome, and I don't know if it's welcome to the NFL per se, but in a way that you're going to see really what he's made of. It's going to be against Philadelphia. He's going to be rushed out of the pocket. Lamar did not look comfortable, in parts of when they hosted Philadelphia. Lamar is a MVP candidate, or somebody that usually would be in the running for it. Bryce Young is not that. Bryce Young is not a top 10 quarterback, but what Bryce Young is a upcoming quarterback that has found a little bit of confidence, as we've been saying within the past month. I don't know exactly if you're going to see a terrible game from him, but it's certainly not going to be smooth. And Philadelphia is going to bring, I think, a lot of what they did to Lamar Jackson tenfold on the Bryce Young.
I'm curious to see what kind of game we get out of Bryce Young because listen, we all expected the Eagles to kind of steamroll Jacksonville, right? And then that turned out to be freaking causing heart attacks all over Philadelphia. But Bryce Young, he gave it to Kansas City, 27 points. He had a completion percentage of 60%, 263 passing yards and a touchdown, no turnover. But he was sacked twice. My apologies, he did have a fumble. So I'm very curious I'm more so curious to see what version of Philadelphia we see as opposed to what version of Bryce Young we see. This Philly team, I feel like you're hosting Pittsburgh next week. Pittsburgh is they're no scrubs. They're not bums over there. They're putting up crazy amount of points against teams that they're facing. But Philadelphia, I feel like you have to continue. You got to play this game like you're playing the Ravens again, like you kind of alluded to. Like it's got to be that kind of pressure on defense. It's got to be that kind of composure on offense. And in my personal opinion as well, like offensively, like you're getting Devontae Smith back. This is one of those games where you can experiment a little bit with the passing game, but just don't overdo it and try not to don't put yourself in a position where you're gonna get humbled. That's my point of my point on that. Like you have Devontae Smith out there, try out the slants, see how he's looking out there, get Jalen back in a rhythm with him. Saquon, I think it's about 106 or 108 yards away from breaking Shady's record. Let that happen, do your thing, but also like just continue the momentum, continue the rhythm you guys are on, continue to flow. Just don't let it don't let this game alter that. Because Pittsburgh they're gonna throw the ball everywhere. They're gonna test you, and this is one of the games where you just gotta keep the flow going.
Yeah, this and I look at the personnel for the Panthers bring to the table. They do have some playmakers. They do have some playmakers on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Personnel wise, I think if you obviously just were to look at this on paper, you would heavily favor the Eagles going into this game. I don't know what the spread is, if you will. But at the end of the day here, I do. I'm again. I reside in my confidence with the Eagles. Tomorrow at 1:00 versus the Panthers.
I'm trying to look back at this Chiefs game, and I don't know if anyone remembers. I was kind of box score watching. I forget what else I was doing that Sunday, but where did the majority of their points, I believe, came off of field goals in that game? And I think that's the one thing that you have to watch if you're Philadelphia is that if you're going to stop them, you got to stop them early. Carolina has done a good job behind Bryce Young of picking up chunk yardage, and even if they're not finishing with a touchdown, they're getting in position to kick field goals as opposed to having to punt the ball. And what you need to do is you need to establish that dominance early, and you have to force their punter in the game early. You can't allow them to get chunk points here and there. I think that's the only thing that could really allow them to remain in the game, because I'm not necessarily worried about Bryce Young putting up 3 tutties against Philadelphia. I'm not worried about Chuba Hubbard getting past Jordan Davis. What I think you can find, and Brian, I think this is partly what you were kind of alluding to. If you were to, as the Eagles, as Nick Sirianni, as Jalen Hurts, whomever in this particular case, if you were to effectively undermine the offense's ability, right, and then defensively you allow Carolina, even if you're not allowing big plays, even if you're not allowing chunk points, 7 at a time, if you allow them to continue to stay in the game, off the leg of their kicker, I think that's where you're potentially looking at a situation where this game could be closer than some anticipated. What again you need to do defensively is you just have to establish dominance early in drives, and you just can't allow them to move the ball downfield. You have to shut them down early. You have to make sure that they're playing from behind early. That comes to scoring early offensively as well, something that Philadelphia has struggled with all season. But if you're able to kind of build that lead early on, then you're going to change the game plan offensively for Carolina. Then you're going to put the ball in Bryce Young's hands a lot more. And I have a decent amount of faith in the secondary from there on out. I don't think Adam Thielen, who, to his credit, still balling out at 40 or 45, 50, however old he is nowadays, but still balling out. And he's been great for Bryce since he came back from injury. I think that you're looking at a completely different secondary in Philadelphia than you've seen in Tampa, than you've seen in Kansas City, in New York, in New Orleans. I think you're looking at the toughest secondary that you've seen yet if you're the Carolina Panthers. So it's going to be a tough task. You just got to make sure that you deny them early and don't enable them to stay within the game by getting 3 here and 3 there.
I do remember that you call Adam Thielen 45 to 50 years old when he's only 34 years old, and Eric and I are 35. But that's neither here nor there.
Listen, for a guy on the right side of 30, it might as well be $1 million. I'll be honest with you.
Wow. Oh my God. Anyway, I will say this. Phil, when Carolina, I did catch some of that game against Kansas City, and you're right. The chunk plays were there, especially through the air, and I'm looking at a matchup where those chunk plays could be there against Philadelphia, because if Bryce Young needs to play the safeties, right? The safeties in Philadelphia are so banged up entering this game, and if you are kind of, again, falling into this trap game kind of, talk. If you are looking at a game where you're hoping that you can kind of skate by with the safety room, and hopefully, somebody heals up or whatever, what may have you, you're entering this game with CJ Gardner-Johnson and Tristan McCullum as your safeties. Obviously, Bradbury has been on IR, hasn't played pretty much all year, if anything at all. Brown and Blankenship is out. So I'm looking, if there's a way that not Philadelphia, but Carolina, if they're going to move the ball on Philadelphia, it's going to be through the air. And I do think it's going to be a lot of the shorter plays that maybe, there is maybe they break a tackle. It doesn't really seem like anybody's breaking a tackle in Philadelphia, as far as like Cooper DeJean, making those kind of tackles on somebody like Derrick Henry. But if they do, I will say it like this: I think it's underestimated how shifty Chuba Hubbard is, and how he can move around or make plays in the backfield, especially off the catch. And once those short gains are established, and that's going to be a lot of Carolina's playbook, I think, against Philadelphia, they're going to try to attack those safeties. And they've shown that they've had a little bit of success against Kansas City, and that's, for the most part, what kept Carolina in the fight against Kansas City. That's what I remember from watching that game. I did not see their game against Tampa Bay, but they remained close. They only lost by 3 points in those last two games against teams that are, clearly what I would assume playoff teams. So yeah, I mean, this Carolina team is playing better football. That's been alluded to by Sirianni. It's been alluded to by Jalen Hurts. But is it better football than the Eagles? Again, I had to go back and say no.
So you talked about the safety situation in Philadelphia, right? And first of all, you are completely correct. The lack of depth in this particular game is concerning. But talking about Chuba Hubbard being underrated, Tristan McCullum, man, I'll be honest with you. And it starts with the faith shown by Vic Fangio.
Yes.
I'm a little high on this kid, man. I think that this guy could do a little bit of something. I don't necessarily love him being thrown into a full-time role out of necessity, like is the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a bit concerned. I mean, you're effectively talking about, with both Brown and Blankenship out, as you said, Eric, McCollum and CJGJ in there for every snap. And the alternative is playing James Bradbury. So that's very that's
IR?
that's a good point.
I don't even think he's been activated from IR. I think a lot of what would happen is more of an offensive personnel thing before Bradbury would be an option. And what I mean by that is, with Goddard out, there would probably be an option to maybe, I don't know, pull up a tight
elevating Andre Sam.
Well, that's true. You're right. Yes, so actually that works better, I think, than playing Bradbury, in fact. But I would say you may even look at Avonte Maddox possibly playing.
Oh, we're not trying to scare people off now.
Now, listen, I'll say this: Maddox has not had a good season. I actually have more faith in him playing safety than I do him playing nickel, because the problem is that he can't keep up in man coverage. We've seen that again and again and again. But if you're playing him off zone, I have a little bit more faith in Maddox performing. So it's the best of a bad situation, I would say.
Do you think they rotate Cooper from safety to nickel a little bit? Have a little fun with it?
I would.
I wouldn't want to, but
unless you're up, I would keep him in the nickel.
Okay.
That would be fun to see, though. But I mean, one of those scenarios where if you are up in a game, I wouldn't necessarily take DeJean out while you're starting or you're resting your starters. I would rather move him to another position and get him some reps there, with your depth being what it is. So that is a fair point.
And that's another thing about the starters that you kind of brought up. If the team is up by a sizable margin, I mean, do you rest them heading into like midway third or even the fourth quarter just to kind of get them, get their bodies prepared for Pittsburgh?
I think that would be a good idea, but I also think about records, right? And we're always going to think about that record with Dickinson for the NFL season, single season rushing record. So if you're pulling out your starters, then you're obviously pulling out Barkley. And are you going to pull out Barkley without a line, or is it? I think you do, honestly. I think what matters more is the postseason run versus the single season rushing record. But at the same time, he is on pace for that. So is that again? It's a question you ask yourself there. I don't think that it's too crazy to say that everybody gets pulled. Because it is what you want to do with your team. You want to keep everybody pretty much healthy as you can, especially a guy like Barkley, who is a huge part of this team and its success. But yeah, like you were kind of getting to, if you do get to the point where Philadelphia has a sizable advantage in the third heading into the fourth, yeah, I do think that some of these players are pulled out, and I don't know, maybe there's some guys that are just returning that keep the reps in there. So maybe a Devonta Smith stays in the game. Maybe not. Maybe he just gets more reps and then comes out a little bit later. But yeah, a lot of those guys, kind of what you were saying, Brian, I do think that they do pull them out and get them ready for Pittsburgh.
I just want to circle back to the moving Cooper out of the slot conversation for a quick second. Adam Thielen's been playing a lot in the slot for Carolina, and I think for that reason alone, you're not moving Cooper out of the slot. I think that you're going to be looking at him playing nearly every single snap there, just because, despite being north of I forget where do we land, 60 years old, he is playing incredible football right now. So you don't necessarily want to move a incredible, as a rookie, incredible slot defender at a position, even if it is to try him out at what could also be a potential future position. Because the thing is, I'm not looking to move Cooper out of the slot. However, I think that he has shown enough talent as a football player that I'm effectively confident putting him wherever on the field. He's just got to be out there. He's been great in the slot. I'd be curious to see if he would be great at safety. I think you could put him on the outside. I think the Eagles have enough outside talent, especially outside specific talent, where that's not a need. But I think that this guy could play anywhere. So I just need him on the field. But when you have a matchup with Thielen in the slot, I think you got to keep him in the slot the whole day.
We're getting Darius Slay back for this game, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
correct? So it may be the poor time to experiment, but why not experiment like a little bit where Isaiah Rodgers or Keely Ringo that's not getting a lot of on-field play with Darius Slay back, throw them into that kind of rotation.
I'm not a Keely in the slot guy. I love
No, I'm
Keely.
talking
I
about
love his
safety.
game.
I wouldn't move.
Oh, safety for sure.
Yeah,
I
your
love that.
point. I wouldn't move Cooper off slot.
Dude, he'll rock a body from safety. Like I'd love to see Keely play some safety.
30's the new 20, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, we'll say this real quick. There was a nice quote from Fangio about McCollum. He said Tristan McCollum is a guy that has good talent, good ability to play the position. He's young and inexperienced. So basically, what he's saying is, he could probably be a good safety in the NFL due to his athleticism. However, if you look at McCollum's track record, he's never started a NFL game. So I guess what we're talking about here is it's a good feeling based on what we saw briefly in in Baltimore, and maybe just kind of what you're hearing from coach speak. If he's going to start this week, what do we expect from him, and as far as the stat line perspective, or what his game would look like against the Carolina Panthers?
I'm talking about McCollum, correct?
Yes.
I personally feel like the Eagles always have these anomalies happen, right? Where these guys step into these roles, they show out, and then you're like, wow, like, this guy actually could be pretty good, but he's just pretty good because the situation he's in Philadelphia. But I wouldn't be surprised if like Tristan McCollum is pretty damn effective. I know I think I speak for the podcast where we're not all like, hey, Reed Blankenship is the number one unquestionable safety. You get me? Like, I know I feel like
He's White Dawkins. You watch your mouth.
I personally feel like this it should be Sidney Brown's role, but Brown hasn't been healthy all season. But McCullum, I feel like he's a bit quicker than Blankenship. And when he came into the Ravens game, like he was laying down the hammer, like he was bringing the boom from that position, and giving him full starter reps, giving him the starting position. I would be surprised if he has less than probably like 8 tackles in this game.
I would like to see it. First off, I just want to start to see what his tackling is like. I don't know. 8 tackles seems like a lot to ask for from a guy that's kind of just stepping in. Now, if he does hit those 8 tackles, I do think that there's something to cook with as far as the safety room. As far as I for a guy that's never started an NFL game, I don't know that I would just immediately say he's above a Blankenship or
Oh, no, I'm
something
not
like
saying he's
that.
above. I'm just saying, like, he has certain attributes that were sticking out in the Ravens game. I'm just saying
Yeah,
Blankenship is not the according to Exact, at least he is, but he's not the franchise safety, in my opinion.
no, and that's I guess there's really at the end of the day here, I wouldn't really say there's really any franchise safety. Like even Gardner Johnson. Gardner Johnson's turned it up over the past few weeks. I think he's had a pretty decent month of football, and maybe even a little bit longer of a stretch than that. But throughout the course of his season, the safety room, I think everybody in the chat and in on this show would sit there and say that it is pretty suspect. It hasn't been the best. It's been the weak link, I think, of the defense. But at the same time, they've made plays when they've needed to, and that pretty much covers Blankenship's game as far as describing it. He's made the plays when he's needed to. Yeah, I mean, with McCullum here, I would like to see a couple passes defended, and I say maybe a handful of tackles would be enough to satisfy me as far as a sample size. But at the end of the day here, I'm fine with, if it's a lack of those things, like if it's like 3 tackles and there's not any big, chunk plays as far as like a huge gain for a touchdown at his expense. And I understand that players are going to give up touchdowns, but if there's something that's not like, a 20 plus, 30 plus thing and it's at McCollum's expense, if he can kind of mitigate those, then I think we're talking about a good start.
Eric, you just hit the main point right on the head. It's not about what stats he puts up. It's about what plays he doesn't allow.
Yeah.
So that's really what I think Philadelphia needs to see in this situation. Like tackles are great. More importantly, I don't want to see many, if any, missed tackles. This is the bigger thing. Blown coverage. Don't want to see that.
That's a position of concern. With him at least.
I want the safeties to play with safety.
He's allowed 5 out of 6 targets this season. All of them are above 10 yards. So
well, let's talk about that one. Let's talk about that one for a second. That was a big one against Baltimore. A pretty clutch one. Let's focus on that for a second. What have you done for me lately? Well, it's 0-1 in his last one. It's we'll see what he can do from here, but he's hopefully he can build off of that momentum. Something like that can be a big confidence booster, especially when you have your DC pumping you up to the media even right after, like Eric you mentioned earlier.
yeah.
And Vic's a guy where he kind of like keeps it a buck regardless, and kind of
He doesn't BS at all, which I love that.
no, and
no
he'll
BS.
give you praise and also tell you to get back in the gym like at the same time. And I think that's something that is good for a lot of players because it can boost your confidence without inflating your ego, and that's kind of the big thing for a young, unproven player like McCollum. You don't necessarily want a guy like that feeling himself, but you want him to have a sense of confidence at the same time. So that's where I think a coach like Vic Fangio is. It's one of the ways he's immensely valuable. So
I feel like Vic Fangio
hopefully
should be my life coach.
See, I
Oh,
said
what's
something
the-
like that not that
what's
long
the
ago.
I don't know that I'd want that personally.
I said I was praising Vic Fangio not that long ago, and you guys were like, "Oh, are you dating his daughter?" No.
What the
Yeah.
hell was this?
Not you, Zach.
Yeah, who said
Okay.
that, bro?
You,
I was
Brian.
gonna say, like,
You, Brian. Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to
Well,
pull
let's
Wait,
Jamie.
before you move your stairs from one place to another, yeah.
I'm
you
just gonna
said
say
that.
we still haven't seen the stairs.
I was about
We
to
don't
say,
know that they're there.
find a clip. Find the clip.
Yeah, I need you to find the clip on that one, or because
I love how Eric makes the accusation and then tells you to find the clip.
Yeah, legit, like, bro, you should know that.
No, you prove that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Until
I don't
then,
have I don't have all the access to StreamYard, so honestly, at the end of the day,
You got access
it
to
kind of
YouTube?
is asking you to prove me I'm wrong.
That's
Oh
that's
my
fair.
god.
But when we're talking about this safety group, that confidence can prove immense for a guy like Tristan McCollum. I also think that just looking at this game, this could be another kind of building block for him. I'm not expecting him, kind of Brian, as you said, I'm not expecting him to overtake what is kind of an open competition at safety. But I think that he can provide something and kind of build his role with a game like this, a situation where this is a talented team in Carolina. Like for all the crap that I've given this team, I don't like every team in the NFL is good to a certain degree. And offensively, this team has continued to improve over the past 4 weeks. Bryce Young looks like, I would say, a more than capable NFL quarterback, which is completely different than how he looked to start the year.
Do you
The
think
receiving
the Panthers could be the
core-
Sixers?
What are you doing to me, man? What are you doing? Why are you the way that you are?
Brian, I agree with you on this. He dunked on me earlier, so you can't dunk
Well,
back.
hold on.
Can't
Sixers
dunk back on
are
the
3-1
basketball,
in their last 4. 3-1 in their last 4.
I mean,
Do,
so
do
is
they have a
Bryce
winning
Young, right?
record? Do they have a winning record?
Over their last 4, they do.
Do they have a winning record in general?
Oh, over the last 4. That's what we're here to talk about. That's what
So
we're here to talk
Sixers
about.
Panthers, I feel like that's the same team.
See, there's at no point in your rambling did you make anything close to a coherent point. They're not waiting for their superstar to come back, or their second superstar to come back, or their third superstar to come back. Like it's not been injuries with Carolina. It's a lack of talent. That's the key difference. So what they have seen is the development to pull focus back is the development of that talent, particularly at the most key spot in football, quarterback. And listen,
Would you trust
think-
Jared McCain or Bryce Young
I would
In the-
trust Jared McCain with my life.
in the
man.
final minute?
I would still trust
Of a
Jared
Super
If he
Bowl.
wanted to take my life, I'd let him.
Wait, Jared McCain in the final minute of the Super Bowl?
Give it to Jared McCain.
Down 13.
Listen, man, there's
Why is
some,
this
there's
getting
some people
wilder?
there's some people who just know how to win. They're just about winning, and that's Jared McCain, man.
This show is in shambles according to K1, and Doug is in agreement that there's not enough coffee and too much mixed
I asked
drinks the
Rico
next episode.
Hines, renowned player development coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, about Jared McCain. No, just read the article. We don't need to talk about that now. But read the article. It's very interesting.
That was a nice little
On
flex.
phillysportsnetwork.com.
I respect it. Key players to the game. Who are you guys focused on defensively, offensively? We can start with either one of you, and then I'll end that portion.
Do you want to start on offense?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
I want to start on special teams personally.
All right, we can start.
There's
on
only
special
one
teams.
man on
I got
special
people
teams.
to talk about on special teams as well. Yo, shout out the man, the punter. Gets you all the way down to within the 5. Also the coverage on the special teams as well.
Who stopped that ball down there? Was that Keely?
Who's
Look what you
50?
did, Zach.
Who's 50? Oh yeah, thanks, Zach. Anyway.
Success.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, so maybe you do remember who stopped the ball down the 1 and at the 5.
Was it a Sydney? Was it
Perhaps.
a Sydney or Keely?
Who?
Keely
It was probably either
No.
I think
Who's
it
the
was
other one that you said, Brian?
Sydney Brown.
Oh, Sydney.
I
I thought it was
Keely
Keely.
Ringo.
I thought it was one of them.
either way, fantastic coverage, fantastic punts, and I think that was a huge, one of the things that Sirianni really looked at and praised highly was the special teams and punting in that situation. So you get that opportunity to kind of pin the Ravens back there. And I thought that was, again, I'm gonna harp on this because Hertz always says that momentum's not real. It is real, and that was, I think, something that started a momentum shift was based on, where the Ravens had to start on punts because they were moving the ball. And when they were pinned in their end zone, they were not, able to really do that. So, congrats to the special teams for kind of helping getting that moving. Now, Zach, if you have anything special teams that you want to talk about.
Wait, time out. The chat is in shambles right now because Duck is offended that he's 50. And then, did we call K1 a girl?
No, he's a man.
Yeah, but did we call
That's what
him a
that
girl?
says.
I don't remember
Duck's
calling
50,
anything.
K1's a man.
And Duck just
And
sent us.
Duck's over 50, so he's not 50. See, you're right. The chat is in shambles.
Look what you did, Zach. Look what you did.
Oh no, you can't hold. I'm not responsible for what's
Oh,
going
you
on
are
in there.
solely
That's all them.
responsible for this.
That's all they're doing. They're adults. I mean, Duck's 50 for crying out loud. He knows what he's doing. But if we're talking about special teams, I do have to kind of follow up your shout out for Braden Mann. Special teams player of the week in the NFL, mind you. Listen, this guy, I feel like I can't even remember, and this is what's so beautiful about Braden Mann. The punting situation before he came to Philadelphia was horrific. It wasn't bad. It was Aaron Sipos.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It honestly, like the role that it played in the Eagles losing games during his tenure. And I'm not trying to be an ass, but man, he was not that guy, and Braden Mann's that man. So it is impressive. Doug, don't call me out for
that guy. Man's that man. You know what? Those punchlines.
Did we really start off with special teams, or did I
We
miss?
did because we have
special
things
teams
to
are
say.
key, man.
Okay, okay, all right, fine. I
They're
mean,
football
They beat
players too,
Baltimore on the
Brian.
back of special teams.
well,
They're
my
football
special
players
teams
too,
person to watch is Mike Clay because he's done a freaking fantastic job with the special teams
Shout
unit
out.
this year. And he's done a fantastic job. I feel like even last year, and he's progressed from the point where people were asking for him to be fired to actually being the guy, kind of finding his little Jeff Stoutland footing on that side of the sidelines.
I missed that. So wait, so Mike Clay was under the scope last year on on a
Oh,
hot
people
seat?
hated him
Yeah.
last year. I was
Not
about
only
to
last
joke
year, but
that
the
he was
year
a lot
before
better
as
than that
well.
guy last year, knowing that it was actually Clay last year.
Huh.
But
Yeah,
no,
I missed that whole narrative. Ooh, all right.
the way that the team played as a whole on special teams was just not great. I think Brady Mann, I still thought he did a good job last year, but he's obviously been better this year. But they didn't get the same production out of the gunner spot. They just didn't look, and it was like pulling teeth at first when they were returning punts throughout the year. Like Covey kind of showed some stuff here and there, but who was it else that they were rolling out there last year that could not get a lick of yards? There was someone else before they committed to Covey.
Was it Watkins or Ward?
It could have been either. I think it was Watkins. I'm pretty sure it was Watkins.
I'm sorry, Eric, but Ward was terrible at punt returns.
When did he return punts?
It might have been kick returns that Ward was doing.
My apologies.
Yeah.
No, he did punt return as well.
Where did that?
Well, in any case, I think we can all agree that Watkins and Ward. This probably isn't where we should be. I may have derailed this conversation a little bit.
You actually brought up.
Not even just back to that. We're talking about Kez Watkins and Greg Ward, two guys who just and their performance in special teams last year. But what I will say is,
this is important news, Zach.
All the way around, it's been great having Covey now as the guy returning punts or Cooper returning punts. Both of them have taken time doing so. When Covey was hurt, Cooper obviously. The way that the rest of special teams has played under Michael Clay has been fantastic, and it's legitimately been a great positive development, something that could play a factor in the postseason push. So that is why, Brian, we discuss special teams on today's pod. But Eric, you may continue with offense when you are ready.
Now I'm thinking about, who would you rather have as a backup quarterback, Greg Ward or Kenny Pickett?
I mean, I
Brian
would
left the
personally
chat.
say
Yeah.
this is when you kind of get me back, and let's bring Greg Ward back into that conversation.
That's all I care about.
Feeling a bit better there, but if that's the competition, do we have a measurement on Greg Ward's hands?
They got to be bigger. They got. I mean, pause. But
he's a receiver. Also, is he? No, he's not a 2 Glover. I'm looking at it right now. He's not. He's a 1 Glover QB. He's not a 2 Glover. But the problem is that ball secure hand is a gloved hand. I'm looking at his Houston time right now, so that's a little problematic. But it's better than 2 gloves, of course.
I'll take it. I don't know. We're talking about backups here. Yeah. So as far as the offensive player to look at, now that we get this back on track a little bit, Devonta Smith is my guy. He rejoins the lineup at the 2 weeks out. I don't necessarily think that the passing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the passing attack can be featured a little bit more, but again, not really worried about the ratio of a pass to a run here. You're just worried about winning. But I would like to see Devonta Smith kind of get his reps back and have an impact on the game on a return. I think it's just a good story there, and I think it's just an element to the Eagles that they've missed over the past couple of weeks.
I noticed that we got back on track as Brian left, so we. I'm thinking there's no small coincidence there. I do agree that Devonta Smith working him back in now that he's returned, and he seems motivated too in this game. I don't know if that's necessarily just a hunger not playing, for a little bit now, or obviously he's a passionate individual when it comes to playing on the field. He's kind of more reserved personality, but he does have that dog on the field. Offensively, I want to continue to see Grant Calcaterra build on what has been a very good season when Dallas Goedert's not playing. And I know you're talking about, backup tight end, that's who you're going to watch and whatever, but I don't really have any concern about guys like AJ, Jalen, Saquon in this game. Devontae, I want to make sure he's healthy. I want to see him get back on track. Certainly, you're going to need some production from the tight end spot. And Dallas Goedert, I wish him well. It's been a struggle to stay healthy over his career, but especially this season. So really want to see Grant Calcaterra produce in this spot, given the opportunity. He already has the season, so he has it in him. Just want to see that opportunity again. Brian, I pointed out that as soon as you hopped off, we actually got right back on track, and we've been very productive since. So
yeah,
if you want to give your offensive take now.
Like good professional boys.
Wow, behaving.
Big boys.
Okay.
Big boy time.
Zach's finally behaving. Offensively, is there anybody else besides the offensive player of the month of November that we're looking at? I mean, Saquon Barkley's on.
Had you been here, you would have heard the two people.
Yeah, actually,
that was a rhetorical question. Saquon Barkley is 106, 108 yards away from breaking Shady's record. He's growing closer to the all-time record for the single season rushing yards. I want to see how they use Saquon, and I want to see them not overuse Saquon, because over the last several games he's had 20+ rushing attempts. He's been popping off heavily at the second half of the games, which has been phenomenal. I think he has like over 980 rushing yards in the second half of games. Yeah. But I do want to see them start. I don't want to see them start hot. I just want to see them start consistent. Like you cannot, I'm fine with you not scoring on the first drive of the game.
You don't want to see them start hot?
No. I don't want to put pressure on that.
I want to be ice cold.
No. But the whole, the whole thing of them not scoring in the first quarter and the second, third, I want that. It's not a thing anymore, right? What I want to see, though, is a consistent drive. Like, I want to see them running the ball consistently. I want to see play action consistently. I want to see the slants, the middle of the field being used up, even with Devonta Smith out there. But to me, it's Saquon watch right now just because of the record.
You brought up the tight end, Zach. With Goddard and his history of injuries, going into, and then this is kind of foreshadowing into next year a little bit. What do you think should be, I guess, the plan of attack for the Eagles regarding the tight end position?
Draft Tyler Warren.
Yeah, so use a high. Do you think he's going to be a second or third? Or do you think he's going to be a guy that's taken? Yeah.
See, that's the problem. I think that he could work his way to the point where he's drafted ahead of the Eagles' first round pick. That's the problem. I would love for it to be a situation similar to how the Eagles got Goddard, where you see them trade out of the first round into the second and draft him in the early second. There was a time where the draft board seemed to be falling that way, and a lot can change between now and the draft. A lot can definitely change. Obviously, there's the Senior Bowl to come. There's, even bowl season, but the combine, everything like that. But I still feel like he's probably just going to rise too high. He's probably going to be the second tight end taken off the board, and he's probably going to go. I would say probably late first round. There's a chance early second round. I don't necessarily want to use a first round pick on him. I'm a little hesitant to do that on a tight end, especially when the offense is so stacked like Philadelphia's. And at a certain point, you have an embarrassment of riches. Like, you can sacrifice draft position a little bit to add a quality piece where there's a hole. I would still rather kind of trade back for a guy like that, but it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that draft board falls. I don't mind rolling into next year with Calcaterra if you want to bring in a more veteran presence to kind of back him up. And I don't mean Uzama. I mean a guy who's a little bit more.
They signed CJ to the active roster.
Yeah,
for this season.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily thinking that's the solution next year, though. I would probably prefer somebody who, is a bit closer to their prime. No offense to CJ. He's actually been very helpful, I think, even when he's not been on the field for Philadelphia. But I think you need to improve. If you're going to roll out with Grant as your number one, you're going to need a better number two, basically. And it can't be Jack Stoll either, who is serviceable but is not. He's not a high end number two tight end in the league. It was fine when he was backing up Dallas Goedert and Dallas was, actually playing a good chunk of games. But I think now you have to go either with a high end number two, or draft a legitimate number one tight end in the draft. And the guy, if I'm doing that, is Tyler Warren.
Yeah, and the thing with Tyler Warren is I understand that completely. Another Penn State product, a guy who not just a Penn State product, but has earned his keep across college football in general. But at that point, you kind of have to ask the question: is Philadelphia going to be a team that is going to draft a tight end in the first round anyway? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. That's I do like the idea of taking a tight end, especially if they can, well adjust to the pro style, because we've seen how important that's been to Philadelphia's offenses previously, dating back to Ertz, dating back to even Selleck, dating back to guys, obviously right now with Goddard when he is available. But it's just, I agree with you. It's just the idea of, will Philadelphia take a tight end in the first round? It doesn't scream to me, position to draft in the first round.
Yeah,
I would much rather go with defensive line.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's like they have everything they need. Weapons are a luxury at this point, but they got to go back to the trenches and actually build on that.
Yeah.
All right, we're in the final minutes of the show.
We want to talk about the defense real quick?
I thought we kind of covered that earlier, did we?
As far as the player to watch?
Okay, we can go player to watch, sure.
I'm going with, so I probably, if you guys want to mimic it, that's absolutely fine. But Quinyon Mitchell, to me, his season has been as special as, a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a guy that's an MVP candidate. I look at Quinyon Mitchell and what he's allowed on a head-to-head individual basis, and it's been nothing. He's allowed not much of anything pretty much across the board in his rookie year. So Quinyon Mitchell, I want him to get that first interception. I think it could happen against a guy like young. So that's to me is my guy to watch. Just in short. Again, man, and I know what I'm saying about his playing his rookie year. It kind of seems loud and bold, but just go ahead and peep what he's done head to head against these teams. We know and his opportunities, and compare that against all the other narratives, and he's been just as important on the opposite side of the ball.
There was a touchdown to Cooper Kupp, a garbage time touchdown against the Rams. That
Did
looked like it
was that a Quinn on Mitchell coverage? I
well,
might have
so
missed
that's
that.
what I was going to say is that it looked like it, and everyone said that the run was done. But then I think that they officially gave it to another defensive back in Philadelphia. So I think he still has not, unless he did in Baltimore and I missed it. I think he still has not given up a touchdown this season, which is incredible for any player, but a rookie cornerback is absolutely insane. Definitely a guy to watch in this game on Sunday. For me, and this is a guy who is great to watch every Sunday, but Jalen Carter, man, I just want to see him build upon that performance last week. Every single time, it seemed like he was forcing Baltimore's hand, either making Lamar double, triple think where he's at, what he's doing, what read he's looking at, or forcing the offensive line, which he didn't get the calls, but the holds were clearly there. Like they were manhandling and not off of strength, but like illegally manhandling Jalen Carter like that entire game. Like and it was crazy to see. Like this, it's so rare. I guess I'm trying to think about an Eagle where that happened. I guess like Prime Fletch is the last time where you would like consistently see that throughout a game. And it's so refreshing considering this defensive line is kind of it's a hodgepodge of like solid but not great talent and very young unproven players. But when you look at Jalen Carter, man, the way that he is developing in front of our eyes, like I forgot that he was just in his second year. Like last year was his rookie year. When I looked at this, am I wrong? Is he in year 3?
He's in year 3, right? Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, but no,
Yeah.
no, he's in year 2.
No, he wasn't part of the Super
Look at
Bowl
his
run?
stats. Look at his
Yeah,
stats.
he's in year. Oh, he is in year 3. I mean, no,
See,
he's in
that's what
year,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
he's in year 2.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like the way that he's played will like meant full on Mandela effect will have you fooled that this man is only in the league his second season. Like absolutely crazy the way that he plays,
And
the
he
way that
looks
he's
like he's
grown.
gonna surpass that level of what we saw in Fletcher Cox in Philadelphia with the way he's been playing. I mean, once the calls start coming in and offensive linemen can't do that no more, like Carter's gonna be eating.
Kind of speaks loudly to all the all the criticism that the Georgia Bulldogs that the Eagles drafted received. Like, oh,
Yes.
Nolan Smith, he'll be a bust. No, he's not. Like, why? Like, I never said that Nolan Smith was going to be a bust. I had worries a little bit about Nakobe Dean. Boy, was I wrong. You got guys like Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter in his second season, he got a little bit of criticism last year, and I didn't really see the need for criticism. Maybe outside of maybe outside of I guess his conditioning. I guess that was the criticism. Okay, fine. He kind of admitted that it is what it is from last year, but that's last year. This year, he's one of the best in the league at his position. Yeah. I kind of look at that, that grouping of players, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, man. Not really a lot of room to bitch at this point, as far as the criticism.
Yeah, and when you talk about that conditioning, like listen, there's never an excuse for conditioning, but to make an excuse for conditioning, he is a rookie defensive lineman. So like that's one of those things where from a conditioning standpoint, like a rookie DT, it is kind of hard to kind of have a featured role in your first year going from college to the pros. Like that's a big jump in terms of necessary conditioning. So now he did the right thing. He worked on his conditioning in the offseason. Year 2, he's playing like every snap, damn near every snap. You want to talk about conditioning this year? That's not a problem at all.
Not only that, but he's also taken a huge step in the leadership position within that defensive line.
No, for sure. And the way that he's leading both, I would say, by example and also vocally has been immense for this entire defense. He's clearly and listen, I know we just talked about how Kenyon Mitchell is already a shutdown corner as a rookie. Jalen Carter is the best player on this defense. Zach Bond is incredible. Jalen Carter is the best player on this defense. Jalen Carter is the franchise player on this defense. And it's not that there's not other immense talent on this defense, but Jalen Carter, again, is the franchise player in this defense. And Eric, you brought up, the defense of the Georgia players, and you're absolutely right. Like we've seen that from just about everybody. I mean, Jalen Carter, obviously huge this season. Nolan Smith, much better season than I think most people anticipated for him. Nakobe Dean has been a consistent step up from where most folks expected him. Jordan Davis, even now, Jordan's not, his snap count's not up there. There's still the pass rush concerns. As a run stuffer, I mean, just look at what he did against Baltimore last week. Like you have to give him his props where it's applicable, and people are gonna want to relitigate the Brandon Graham, Earl Thomas 2.0, with him and Kyle Hamilton, and probably until their careers are over yet again. But he's a special run defender, and Philadelphia's run defense is a key part of their defense, and I think you can't overlook that. And I just think that, obviously Kyle Hamilton's a fantastic player. He's already one of the best safeties in the NFL. Jordan Davis plays a huge role on one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL.
So you have Jalen Carter. Eric has Quinyon Mitchell. I'm going to go with Eric on this one as well with Quinyon Mitchell. It's got to happen in this game of all games, either this week or next week. We need to see a damn interception already.
I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Predictions. I'm going 34-17 Philly. Garbage time touchdowns.
I'm remaining around that, actually. 31-16 Philly.
I'm actually feeling that's a little too close. Let's go 30-20 Eagles.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
All right.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we have them all winning. But yeah, we thank all of you guys for joining us today. Everybody that's in the chat, we appreciate you all for your comments. Appreciate you guys for sticking by us with Zach, creating so much chaos in the alternate reality of flipping the birds. But we'll see you guys on Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. live, and we'll recap the Eagles-Panthers game. But until then, I'm Brian Cameron alongside Eric Reese, Zach Chavalella, and we're flipping the birds.
I'm going to go have some coffee now, so go Birds!
Yes, sir. Flip